Radhe Radhe, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Welcome to Shri Shri Radha Vino Bihari Mandir, Gopinath Bhavan, Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Ho.
Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gopal Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Patit Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Shachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai, Radha Vino Bihari Ju ki jai, Radha Ramana Ju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. So we will begin. Radhe Radhe. We will begin with Mangalacharan, page 1 of this book, Sri Gauriya Giti Guccha, Vandeham, Sri Guru, Sri Yuttapadakkamalam. And please forgive us in advance if there are any internet difficulties. We have had some stormy weather today.
It's monsoon.
A lot of rain, a lot of wind, and it's quite dark outside already, which it generally is not. So please forgive us in advance if there will be any difficulty. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakkamalam Shri Vaisnava Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamshra Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayani Namine Shri Krishna Leela Katane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunaishtayuktam Varam Varinyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tvam Shirasha Namami Vidanginam Bhakta Shiromanim Shri Krishna Bhagavatamrita Hridhi Chaitanya Leelamrita Sarasar Narayanam Tvam Satatam Prapadye Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashkatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Gaurapreshaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragya Keshavati Namine Atimatyacharitraya Swashritanam Shapaline Jiva-dukhe sadarkaya Shri Nama Premadayine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Galitaya Kripabhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Gaine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premadhya Shri Rupanga Bhaktina Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Vinatarine Rupangavirudhapa Siddhanta Dhantaharine O Gaur Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambhara Sambodhe Padam Jayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidanandamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumesvam Nirdeshma Sajanapriya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaye Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Nam Puratvishe Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Mandam Matergati Matsarvasvaparam Boja Radha Madanamo Haro Vidyat Vrindaranyakalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Sinhasanastho Shri Shri Radha Srila Govinda Deva Prishthalihi Sevyamanu Smarami Shrimandra Sarasarambhi Mam Shiva Tatatapastitaha Karshannehu Swaragopim Gopinatha Shriyestunaha Vrindaye Tulasi Devyaye Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनं सर्वात्मसमनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसंकीर्तनम् हरेर्नाम हरेर्नाम हरेर्नामेव केवलम् हरोऽन्यस्केवलस्केवलस्केव गतिरन्यथा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
कृपा करके
क्या
गुरुदेव कृपा करके
360
starts with Gurudev.
प्रेचंतो से काम था
Kripa, K-R-P-A, Karke, K-A-R-K-E. And if you're new to the thread and don't know by now, Jiva Pavana Prabhu always posts the bhajans and kirtans as such a beautiful seva so that we can all join in and sing and do kirtan together. So scroll to the bottom or to the top as your
most
computer
recent
allows.
comment
To the most recent comment, look for Jiva Pavana Prabhu, and you will find that he posts the bhajans and different varieties of nectar. Thank you, Jiva Pavana Prabhu. Dandavata.
Shri Gurudev ki jai Gurudev kripa karke mujhko apna lena Gurudev kripa karke Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupan Guru Varga ki jai, Guru Parampara ki jai.
Evara Karuna Koro starts with E-I-B-A-R-A. Evara Karuna Koro, page 44 in the small songbook. And the very last comment, or the very first comment, depending on your computer, Jiva Pavana Prabhu will mercifully pass.
Shuniyachi sadhu muke bole sarvajan. Shrirupa kripaya mile Jugala Charan, page 51.
Starts with Suniyyachi. Shuniyachi.
Shuniyachi sadhu muke bole sarvajan. Shrirupa kripaya Jugala Charan.
Shuniyachi sadhu bole
Mahaprabhu Sanatan Gora Sudevi vancha puno Guru Yama. Shrirupero kripajeno ama pratiho. Shrirupero kripajeno sepanoya shroja se Gurudeva
should do it. Mana Dharmati or Sata. Why are they stopping me Thai bhajan?
Dhanamor Nityananda Patimor Gaurachandra, page 91. And if you don't have the songbook, Jiva Pavana Prabhu very kindly posts it in the comment section of the thread. So please scroll to the most recent post from Jiva Pavana Prabhu and then you may follow along if you don't have the book. Dhanamor Nityananda Patimor Gaurachandra Pranamor Jugala Kishori. प्रभु हे एमोन दुर्मति संसार भीतरे परिया आचिनु आमी page 66
and it starts with Prabhu he emana durmati emona.
It starts to become a little more difficult when you're thinking in
Bengali or
because
Sanskrit.
Bangla or Sanskrit, E is the sound A, which is different than the A in the English alphabet, which they say is A, but generally it's always A or A. So, Emona Durmati, Prabhu he Emona Durmati. Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re sabai.
Page 170. And it starts with Radha Krishna Bol Bol.
Radha Krishna bol
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 bolo
Re
re
Sabai.
sabai.
Ishikadiya Sabdadiya Pechidi.
State Vandita bolo re nishitodiya. We're not going to do that tune, although you may be familiar with it.
I love that.
I love it too. Page 170. Radha Krishna bolo re Radha Krishna bolo re Hindi bhajan.
Anupama Madhuri.
Yes.
Anupama Madhuri Jodi.
Hamare Shyam Shyama ki.
And it starts with Anupama Madhuri.
What page?
Page 364. Too bad we don't have a living drummer.
Maharaja ki jai. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaye Tadbhaktaye Namo Namah Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namah Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Namine Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. First of all, I offer my Dandava Pranam thousands of times in the dust of the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudev Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad astottara Shri Srimad Shri Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaja. In the same thousands of Dandava Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad astottara Shri Srimad Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada, and to all of our Rupanuga, Gauriya, Guru Varga, and to all Vaishnavas past, present and future, including all of you who are present with us today, I offer my Dandava Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, dear Vaishnavas. Radhe Radhe.
So yesterday, there was a question which I said I would mention today. Can I distinguish for the aspiring sadhakas the difference between mundane dharma and proper Vaishnava sadachar? This is something that seems to be quite confusing, especially these days. Our Guru Varga have explained that the Vaishnavas are following the highest thing, especially as sadhakas. We should not pretend that we are in Siddha stage. And even those who are in Siddha stage, it means they're in their perfect stage, unless they're operating on the platform of Uttam, which means completely transcendental, with no attraction to anything of this material world whatsoever. We see that most of the time, they are teaching us by example, as we've seen in the life of Sri Sanatan Goswamipada, Sri Rupa Goswamipada, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Did I already say Raghunath Das? Vande Rupa Sanatano, Raghu Jugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. So what is the difference between Vaishnava Sadachar and mundane dharma? And how does mundane dharma play into Vaishnavism? Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur and so many of our Guru Varga had to expend so much energy to clean up, so much energy to clean up the unauthorized mixing or misinterpretation of the idea that mundane dharma has no place within Vaishnava dharma. In other words, in the name of bhakti, we can do all kinds of simple activities and then throw out shloks like apichet suduracharo and tattenu kampam. Meaning, whatever the devotee does, this is there in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, even if my one-pointed devotee, Ananya Bhakta, who is exclusively devoted to me, for some unforeseen reason, accidentally commits the greatest simple activity, duracharo. Because they are exclusively devoted to me, bhajate mam ananya bhak, then they should still be considered a sadhu. And very quickly I will reinstate them to their original position. So Krishna uses the term even if. So in the name of bhakti, so many unscrupulous persons would take this shlok, perform and commit all kinds of simple activities and say, look, I'm exempt. Anyone can do whatever they want in the name of bhakti, and the only person that has any fault is one who notices it. Otherwise, everyone should just be quiet and not say anything, and let everything go on in the name of bhakti. So this was going on after the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So many apasampradayas cropped up, so many different kinds of sahajyas cropped up. And then if they would do anything to you, and you would say, hey, that doesn't feel right. Why did you do that? Why did you steal my wife or molest my child? Hey, you cannot say anything. That's your karma. This is tattenu kampam susunikshamano. How do I know about this? Because we grew up in a situation where people were abusing these things. So I can speak from practical experience about these things. And our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas fought so hard against these abuses of Shastra in the name of Bhakti. So what is the symptom of someone who is actually truly practicing Vaishnavism? Truly. Their dharma will be so perfect that no flaw or fault can be seen in them. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he explained this. How one's character should be. That it should be flawless. And this will be the natural effect of practicing bhakti properly. Their character will be flawless. Now, many of us are, just beginning. And we have so many anarthas that manifest. But those who take the role of guru, who can remove one from darkness and bring them to light, they should be qualified. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj said, these days people take it as cheap as child's play. And in the name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu perform all kinds of simple activities. But this is the most serious thing. It is not a joke to take the role of spiritual master. Spiritual master. It may be that we might be able to encourage one another and we can admit, I make mistakes, I'm flawed, I'm not on that level. This is my problem. But to claim to be on that level, this creates havoc in society. Why? Because it is the cheaters and the cheated. So then we all become confused. What's real, what's not? What should I listen to? Who should I follow? If everyone is supporting this thing, what do I follow? So Mahaprabhu said, if there is a white cloth and even one black spot on the cloth, no one will see the cloth. Everyone will see the black spot. So one's character should be impeccable. Especially if we want to represent our Gurudev, if we want to represent our Guru Varga, if we want to represent Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We are not copiers of Krishna. This is something that people mistake. They've made a mistake that we follow or copy Krishna. Krishna is above and beyond everything. Krishna can dance with millions of gopis who are technically the wives of others, and there is no flaw or fault in there. And just so that we don't make that mistake, this sahajya thing of superimposing my mundane thing onto the spiritual thing, or thinking that I am Krishna and that I can enjoy like Krishna. Krishna himself came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Jagat Guru to teach us by his own example what is impeccable character, so that we can't be confused about it. And he showed with Chota Haridas what is the duty of someone in that position. According to the position, one will receive an appropriate reward or punishment. If someone is rank and file and they have some difficulty, then very easily you can say privately, Prabhu, I noticed something. Can I mention this to you? It doesn't look good. It reflects badly on everyone. It reflects badly on Gurudev. Please don't do this, if they will accept it from you. And there can be some minor adjustment. But our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he speaks very boldly that if someone in a very high senior position who has taken a very prominent role is abusing that position in the name of bhakti and creating chaos and doubt and confusion in the name of bhakti, because they have taken a public position and are abusing that position, then they need to be called out publicly. Interestingly, that's what he said. Who has the qualification to do that? That person who's on the top, or that person who was abused, apparently. So, in the case of this question, Vaishnava Sadachar and mundane dharma. What is mundane dharma? Well, all the 26 qualities of a devotee are considered mundane dharma. And then the one that makes it all qualified is complete surrender to Krishna. If one is really surrendering to Krishna as a sadhaka, as a practitioner of bhakti, then you will naturally see all of the other qualities of goodness and pure goodness manifest within them. Kripalu, merciful, akritadroha, satya sarasam, equal to everyone without faults, very mild, very clean, without material possessions, completely controlling their senses and their desires, the desire to enjoy the senses, without false ego, silent, meaning only speaking about Krishna, humble, very grave, friendly toward all. And I already mentioned silent. There's so many. Kripalu, akritadroha, satya sarasama, nidosha vadanya, mridu, shruchi, akinchana, sarvapakarakta, shanta, krishnaika, sharana, akama, anihastira, vijita sadguna, mitabhuk, apramata, manada amani, gambhira, karuna maitra, kavi dakshamauni. These are the 26 qualities of a devotee mentioned in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the one that gives them all substance is Krishnaika Sharana, completely surrendered to Krishna. One who is really following, one who is actually following Vaishnava Dharma, proper Vaishnava Sadachar. They will be the best of society. That the rest of society can look up to them and think, yes, by their character I can see that this is something which has value. Their character is impeccable. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj said that we should consider within our own hearts that what I am doing, this behavior will fall on my Gurudev. Some people think it doesn't touch my Gurudev. He's completely above it and transcendental. But Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj said, this will reflect on my Guru and my Guru Varga and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna. So I should behave in such a way that no ill feeling or ill name comes toward all of these personalities. If I am misbehaving, especially in the name of bhakti, not only will it go to my spiritual family, but it will also go toward my own mother and father and grandparents and my dynasty. Means everyone in relation to me will be criticized by my behavior. It's a big weight to hold, but as Vaishnavas, or as aspiring Vaishnavas, we should consider it like this, that I don't want any ill mood or ill name to come toward my Guru and Guru Varga by my behavior. And then some will make some kind of claim. well, it's just a material thing, but I'm actually experiencing bhav, so I'm going to enter into mundane material relationships, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. Our Gurudev has explained again and again and again and again that you should know that those persons are completely in the clutches of illusion, they are bogus, and they are fit to be rejected. Why? Because they cannot help you to move forward on the path of bhakti. So pretense in the name of spirituality is not something that any of our Guru Varga have appreciated. And Krishna himself doesn't appreciate it. If you see in our Shastra, there's Kapata Kutinati, Baladev Prabhu smashes that. Oh, duplicity, pretense, and all of those things. Baladev Prabhu takes by his plow and hits you with his club. Those things. Romaharsham, we spoke about him the other day. Look at him. He was the highest, most respected person to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, but he was a pretender. All of those rishis, 88,000, put him on the highest seat. And they were giving so much respect and honor. When Baladev Prabhu walked into that assembly, everyone stood to honor the origin of Guru Tattva, the origin of all Shastra, Sri Baladev Prabhu, except for one, Romaharshan. Baladev saw he is not fit to be in this position. In front of everyone, publicly he exposed him and then removed him with one blade of grass. Blade of kusha grass, he finished him. And then Baladev Prabhu gave his full mercy to the son of Romaharshan, Ugra Sutta, otherwise known as Sutta Goswami, whom we have received Srimad Bhagavatam from, Sri Sutta Uvacha. So we should not mistake the idea that anyone can do all sorts of nonsense, nefarious activities and continue doing them, and that we should surrender to them. Yes, they may be sadhu in that they are one-pointed, but our Guru Varga says we should keep a distance. They cannot be completely one-pointed to Krishna and doing all kinds of nonsense at the same time. Srila Gurudev said, Ruchi is not two things. Ruchi is one thing. You can't put two swords in one case. So if someone claims to have taste in transcendental loving service of Krishna, running around saying, I'm a manjari, and the next minute they're engaging in illicit, nefarious activities with members of the opposite or same gender, doing all kinds of nonsense activities, this is not symptomatic of someone who has transcendental taste. Ruchi, asakti, bhav, or prem in the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. We should not fool ourselves. Bhaktivedanta Thakur fought so hard to bring the good name of Gaudiya Vaisnava back from those who had destroyed the name and made it so bad that if anyone just heard that name, they would spit. Bhaktivedanta Thakur fought. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada fought. Our Param Gurudev Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he fought. All of the main prominent disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada fought. Our Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he fought. Our Gurudev, every year when we go to Radha Kund at Kunja Vihari Gaudiya Mat, this is the Mat of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he would call out all of the Sahajya Babajis and he would fight. He would challenge them and he would warn us, be careful. Why? We should not fall for all of this stuff in the name of bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the example, and we are followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have received Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, but we should understand Bhagavad Gita through the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We should understand Srimad Bhagavatam through the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially Rupa Goswami. We should understand all of these essential truths through that medium. Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj mentioned, actually spoke quite emphatically, that Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra is speaking to Arjuna from the perspective of Grihasta to Grihasta. But how did Mahaprabhu deal with Chota Haridas? Chota Haridas just glanced lustfully from the position of brahmachari or sannyasi toward any lady. Mahaprabhu rejected him, did not want to see him. And it was understood what the atonement was for that. Whenever Mahaprabhu would ask, where is he? They said, oh, he has given up his life. Mahaprabhu would say, very good, very good. And then, in a spirit form, he would come and sing for Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu would accept that service. But Mahaprabhu had rejected him. So we should not cheapen the process of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and make it into some licentious, dirty thing. We should try to maintain those teachings, not only by our own practice, but our own leaders need to also make that strong representation. It shouldn't be a cheap thing, free for all, that anyone can do whatever they want. Then Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yad yad acharati shreshtas. Whatever those on top do, the rest will follow. If one is lying and cheating and stealing and doing all sorts of nonsense activities, this will also show in the public. And then what will happen? Krishna will have to come and clean up house again and again. What does that mean? He will have to reestablish the principles of dharma, destroy the adharma, bring back the devotees, and remove the demons. So we should not destroy what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give, what our Guru Varga have come to give, by turning it into some cheap sahajiya thing. So there is some speciality here with this Vaishnava Sadachar and mundane dharma. Vaishnava Sadachar means the etiquette of Vaishnavas. The etiquette of Vaishnavas is millions of times more than any mundane dharma. Srila Gurudev explained that those who are living in the mat, Param Gurudev also, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, that they should endeavor thousands of times more than anyone from outside to properly serve, to engage all of their energy in serving Krishna, and to maintain impeccable character. So it's not that there cannot be mistakes. Mistakes may come, but we should not try to justify them. We should not try to claim that it is transcendental, that one is falling down in so many nefarious ways and doing all kinds of nonsense activities. That after 50 years of being a Vaishnava, and then, oh, I can't handle it anymore, let me go get married to somebody. I remember there was one time, there was somebody who was preaching everywhere and doing so many good things and distributing so many books, and they were like sannyasi and guru. And then there was a party when they decided to give up their sannyas and go back into married life. A party. The disciples were dancing with joy, and Gurudev said, this is completely bogus and nonsense. So we should not try to qualify our nonsense in the name of bhakti. If someone is fallen, then they can be fallen. But don't claim to be that transcendental thing. And this creates a system of sahajism which puts a bad name on our entire Guru Varga. So I just wanted to share that in relation with this question, especially because I understand also what the consideration is when it comes to these questions. I mean, how many times I've heard it? 100 times. Gurudev was like, those people who are 50 and 60 and 70 years old, who are again trying to become married in this world, after already having been married 2 or 3 times, and again at 70 years old, he was like, there are no words for such persons. Gurudev said, I don't even have anything to say for such persons. Gurudev, his mood was very like, he thought it was disgusting. That after everything, after coming into Krishna Bhakti and after practicing so much and already 2 and 3, and now you're 70 plus years old, then you're going back into the material world. This is like, he just considered it something that he didn't have. He said, or maybe I have very strong choice words for such things. But this is complete nonsense, Gurudev would say. So we should not try to qualify it as pure bhakti or transcendental or some other kind of thing. The sadachar, the character of someone who is practicing real Vaishnavism. What is the result? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayara Hoitukam. If one is actually practicing bhakti properly, then they will have transcendental knowledge will manifest in the heart, by which detachment from material things will automatically manifest. This is called vairagyam. It means real taste will come, and all lower tastes will be completely, well, I won't even call them tastes anymore. They will become tasteless, or even detestful. Detestful. I don't want that thing. This is a sign of someone's true progress in bhakti. And if we're still, entertaining taste for these things, then we can understand how far we are on the path of bhakti. And then we can understand, oh my God, I need help. I require help. Who do I get help from? Who has all of these problems in their heart? Who is plagued by lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, pride, and all of these other things? They require help from someone who is devoid of those things. That person who is saturated in brajaras 24 hours a day, tishtam brajetat anuragi jananagami kalam nayed, they are completely saturated in service to Krishna. And we can follow them. And in their association, we will develop greed, intense desire for serving Krishna. So much so that we will automatically leave those other things which are unfavorable for bhakti. So this is essential for us on this path. We should not try to justify our nonsense. Oh yeah, justify it through Shastra. Well, Shastra says somewhere in there that I can do this or I can do that. It's not right to try to justify nonsense in the name of bhakti. We should try to represent our Guru Varga and Mahaprabhu. So, forgive me, I know it's a very strong subject. I'm honored to mention, Mamata, she wrote, "This will reflect on my Gurudev," and she put that scary face. So what is the Shastra evidence for this? Srimad Narayan, when he was speaking to the 4 Kumaras, because the 2 guards of the gate of Vaikuntha, Jaya and Vijaya, offended these 4 Kumaras. And so Srimad Narayan came and said to the 4 Kumaras, "I apologize for what they have done. Whatever the servant does is reflected upon the master. In the same way that one part of white leprosy on the body, you can know that it is within the entire system, within your blood." So he said, "I will not hesitate to even chop off my own arm if this is what is necessary to repay you for their mistake. They are my responsibility." So we should also see like this, that what I do reflects upon my master, and my master will also have to take responsibility. It's not that we can look at Gurudev and think, oh yes, he's transcendental, so I can do whatever nonsense I want. So many times. I remember one boy wrote to me once, he's like, "What makes you guys think you're so much better than anyone else? I know so many of your god brothers who are doing so many nonsense activities. Why are you so high and mighty?" He wrote me, and I was like, whoa. And he was talking about going to parties and drinking and taking intoxication and all of this kind of stuff. And I was like, wow. This is what he wrote to me. "Why do you think you're so much better than everyone else, your group?" And it's true. That reflects on our Gurudev and our Guru Varga. So we have an obligation or a responsibility that we should at least make that endeavor to try to reflect nicely upon our Gurudev, if we feel even the slightest bit indebted to him. We are indebted to Gurudev for so many things. Nama Shrishtam Manamapi Shachiputramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajamurupinim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Ho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pritakapaya Shri Gurum Tannatosmi. He's given me Shri Harinam, he's given me Diksha, he's given me relationship to our Goswamis and our Guru Varga, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's given us relationship to Radha Kund, Govardhan, all transcendental places of Vrindavan. And he's giving us relationship to Shri Sri Radha Madhava. For this I am completely indebted and I can never repay Gurudev. Therefore I should make the endeavor to repay him by trying to follow his instruction and trying to maintain a character that is impeccable enough that no black spot will come onto my Gurudev's cloth by my misbehavior. I read it once either from Gurudev or Srila Prabhupada that we should try to act or behave in such a way that no discredit or no criticism comes to our Gurudev. So thank you for mentioning that. Now, we will continue going beyond Vaikuntha. Thank you, Radhika Chandra, for your question. You should be very, very clear on this. That someone who's acting in the role of Guru for so many years, and after so many years, then they fall down and marry their high school sweetheart.
I was wondering if you could just touch on something, not too deeply, because I want to get beyond Vaikuntha. But, you know, nowadays there's political rights and wrongs.
Yes.
And I've seen a lot of people try to attribute bad character towards some of our acharyas because of what they have spoken or written in their books. So I'm wondering, how do you speak about something like that? Because some people say, oh, it's prejudiced, or it's sexist, or it's racist.
Yes.
And then we consider that to be bad character. Not we, but somebody may do that.
Mundane moralists.
So I'm wondering if you can make the distinction between what is really bad character and what mundane morals and political morals are, and what it is our acharyas are giving, and why we don't consider what they speak false.
That's a big subject.
And then maybe tomorrow.
No, I'll just try to address it a little bit.
Maybe we won't get beyond Vaikuntha today.
The pure devotee is not representing their own thoughts, their own concoctions. Srila Prabhupada said, if you ever ask a Vaishnava any question, immediately the Vaishnava should quote Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Because Vaishnavas are Shastra Chakshusha. So they should quote authority. We should never say, I think, I feel, I believe, maybe this, maybe that. So there's so many ideas which are given in Shastra which might not appear to coincide with current standards of mundane morality. And a lot of people won't like it because we have our current standards. It's difficult for people to digest. Because nowadays, within the last 50 or 100 years, so many new ideas have manifested. And again, they become covered and then they manifest again. So like Sudevi said about racism, sexism, and other things like that, those who are pure in heart will represent the conceptions given in Shastra. And those who are not pure in heart will take that and then try to marry it to common things, common ideas. It means they're not towing the line of Krishna, they're not towing the line of Shastra, but they're trying to please the senses and the minds of the people of this world, which means they're actually compromising on the truth as given by Shastra, which is manifested from the Lord Himself. How can we reconcile these things? Our Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, all of our Guru Varga have explained that whatever Shastra says, whatever sadhus and gurus say is in line with Shastra and supporting Shastra, and whatever Shastra says is truth. So we have a choice what to accept. Our ideas of mundane morality can take us away from truth, although we might think it is true now. And I'm speaking very carefully because I am concerned unlike our Guru Varga, that some persons will not want to hear or will not want to accept the words of Shastra. It creates doubt in their minds. How can Prabhupada say these things? How can Gurudev say these things? I'll give one example.
Don't give examples.
I have to give an example. What is nature? Look at every species in nature. Every species in nature. Which species does not fit into nature? One species, that is, the human species. We don't groove with our environment, and we also don't groove with the natural flow of things. If you look at lions and monkeys and birds and this, whatever, you look at all of the different species and then you look at humans. These days, it's considered against morality to say, wait, don't kill your unborn child. In nature, naturally, we don't normally see that. I mean, every day I see how the monkeys are protecting their babies. I just saw a video the other day how there was a flood and a rat was going into a hole in the ground. It was already flooded over and so much rain was coming and it was mud, and she was saving one of her newborn babies after another, taking it from something that's a completely flooded hole and desperately trying to save them. This is natural. But with all the psychology and everything else, everything is reversed and messed up. This is called Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel, hypocrisy, and reversals. So we look at so many things and we think one is right and one is wrong, where it could be exactly the opposite. We don't think that anyone has a right to molest anyone's child. That's wrong. But it's okay to kill your own child. That's right. How? It doesn't make sense. I'm only speaking about it from a theoretical perspective. So that's why we accept the words of Shastra and the words of Guru and Sadhu who are representing Shastra. What is their perspective? Everything in the world has its place. One of our gurus, our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaja, mentioned that when he was younger, he said that his sisters had so much natural affection for him, which was just natural feminine love and affection, that although nothing was asked of them, he would be working, he would be doing so many things, he would come home, they would sit there for hours in the summer with affection, fanning him as he rested. No one forced them to do it. He said it was natural affection. But because of mundane ideas of what's right and what's wrong, he said these days you would be lucky if someone would point a fan in your direction, an electric fan. So then we have a choice. Are we going to accept the mundane, twisted moralities of this world? Or are we going to accept the transcendental realities as manifesting through Shastra? What are the instructions given by the Lord? So these kinds of things we need to process, especially those who are coming in the line of bhakti, who want to progress and who want to develop loving affection for Krishna, who want to follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who want to follow our Guru Varga. We should be careful not to try to superimpose too much of the mundane ideas of morality into the process of bhakti. It will be detrimental for our progress, because we will think, why should I follow authority? Then how can you surrender to Guru? Why should I do what he says? I don't want to follow. I want to do my own thing. I want to be independent. This is the age of independence. Oh, I'll accept only some of what you give, but not the rest. This is a big, big issue these days. I like some of it, but I don't like the other stuff. So I'll reject this and I'll accept this. Then how will you be considered to be under guidance? How will you be considered a follower? Whimsically accepting and rejecting. This will not allow one to develop Guru Nishtha, which is the backbone of bhakti. Then we won't be able to progress one step. So it is necessary first, before accepting initiation, to ensure the bona fides of any personality before submitting unto them. It is necessary to do so, and also for them to ensure that we are sincere. But what is bona fide? That's the question. If they are representing Shastra, and they're not giving anything of their own conception. Like Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj said, there is nothing equal under the sun. We try to equalize everything, but nothing is equal under the sun, and everything has its own karmic place. Why did I come into this body? My karma brought me here. Why am I experiencing what I'm experiencing? My karma brought me here. Why do I suffer the way I do? My karma brought it upon me. This is Shastra. Why am I privileged in a certain way? My karma brought it to me. And now I will enjoy my privilege, and as a result of that, I will have to suffer the result. My karma brought this about. Nothing is equal under the sun. Why is it that humans have houses and the monkeys are outside? And those monkeys have to steal to get their food. I'm talking about right now, in Vrindavan. They're watching you as you're buying your fruit. And then they look, oh, you have a plastic bag. Don't you know I'm so smart? They rip the bottom of the bag and all the fruit falls on the ground. 10 monkeys come and you have nothing left. Their karma brought them to that position. They're in that body with that certain mindset. And this thing is happening to me also because of my karma. So everything has a way to be understood according to Shastra. Everything has its place. And why do the locals take such a heavy role toward the monkeys? The monkeys need to have a certain fear of the locals. If they don't, it will be complete chaos. Anyone who's been in Vrindavan knows that it's a fact. If the monkeys don't feel afraid when you bend down to pretend to pick up a rock, they will gang up on you, attack you, and bite you. When you bend down like that, they get freaked out and they run away. So they have their place. They have their place. The pigs have their place. The dogs have their place. The cows have their place. Everyone has their place in the society so that everything can function in a certain way. And if it wasn't that way, then everyone can't function. So Shastra gives, and the rules of Shastra, what the Lord says, what Bhagavatam says, what the Vedas say, and what the Gurus and the Sadhus represent of those scriptures. They give instructions so that society can flow in a certain way toward Krishna. And the basic idea of that would be Varnashram. They're not all equal. Varna Ashram. There's Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, that is Ashram, and Varna. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And they have their place according to their nature and their aptitudes. So I just wanted to share that. Okay, Jiva Pavana Prabhu is sharing so many things. Thank you, Jiva Pavana Prabhu.
Yeah, the devotees should definitely read them. They're very important to the answers.
Ooh, nice. Okay, I just want to read that last one by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
The
Prabhupada.
last two are great.
Okay, the last, the one's really big.
Yeah.
I'm going to read the last one, and the rest of you are welcome to read them. Please read them. All morality, sanctity, good manners, patience, humility, and every other good quality of the head and heart are always anxious to serve the purpose of the devotees if they are accepted for the worship of God. Thus, it should be admitted on all hands that to seek to separate morality from theism and to imagine Godhead himself to be subservient to the rules of conventional morality is nothing short of undiluted atheism. Wow. I knew I had read something like that somewhere. So now we have a few minutes. I would like to continue with going beyond Vaikuntha. I know these subjects are very intense, but they're definitely worthy of contemplation. Because we have this tendency of absorbing so much information from so many different places. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, be careful, don't read too many books. Well, what is the biggest book? Facebook. It's a mishmash of millions of books. It doesn't matter these days what anyone says or does. There's a conspiracy behind it. One devotee posted something, and I had to make a funny comment back. I said, oh, I heard that this was planned from someone in your location. Something about what happened in Beirut. So I was just making a joke about it. But you can actually make any conspiracy about anything. I don't believe it. These guys actually did it. This thing happened. That thing happened. Too much splayed out attention will make one unable to become one-pointed. So Mahaprabhu said, don't read too many books, otherwise you will not be able to have exclusivity toward the service of Krishna. In other words, we should come under the guidance of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. In the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we can become fixed on our goal. Otherwise, Krishna said, even one sense which is left unchecked can drag anyone fully into the clutches of illusion. Even great personalities, one of the senses which is left unchecked. So if we've got our mind absorbed in so many places, then our feet are in too many boats, we won't be able to make one step forward on the path of bhakti. That's why in the verse defining bhakti, anyabhilashita shunyam dhyana karmadhyanavratam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. There it says Krishna Anushilanam. What is exclusively for Krishna's happiness, pleasure, and benefit. Through all activities of the mind, of the intelligence, of the body, of the words, of the heart, everything for Krishna. Then we can move forward on the path of bhakti. But if we give equal value to the opinions of non-devotees and opinions of Sri Guru and opinions of everyone else everywhere, then what are we going to be able to do? How will we move forward? Gurudeva is saying, I like when you wear tilak. And they're laughing at us for wearing tilak. So in front of these people, I will take off my tilak. In front of Gurudeva, I'll put on my tilak. That means I'm giving priority to those who have no affiliation, no consideration for what is for my real, true benefit. This is called Kripan Durjan. Biphale Sevinu Kripan Durjan. To serve those persons who are far away from bhakti and who are miserly, means self-serving, selfish, then biphale sevinu. Serving them means trying to please them. What is the result? Bifala. It will be fruitless. So instead, we should try to serve the lotus feet of Krishna, which first manifest in our lives in the form of Sri Guru. We say, Om Visnupada, lotus feet of Krishna. Bhanja Hum Haripada Nitire. How to serve the lotus feet of Krishna. First taking shelter of Sri Guru and Vaishnavas, following their instructions, then we will be able to serve Krishna. And by this, we will attain perfection. Everything else will just keep us bound in samsara. All material truths and untruths are just two sides of the same coin, binding us in samsara, because we won't be thinking about, meditating on, glorifying Krishna's names, forms, qualities, or pastimes. Then what is the use? What is the final result? Bifal, no fruit. Just continuation in samsara. So Gurudev would say, just give me this one life. One life. Please just give me one. Become happy. He said, make me happy by becoming happy yourself. How? Take shelter of Harinam. Hare Krishna. Take shelter of Harinam Prabhu. So now we've got 7 minutes, 10 minutes to go beyond Vaikuntha. Before entering into this transcendental literature, which is a manifestation of the heart of Srila Gurudev and Sri Sanatan Goswamipada, we will pray in the words of Raghunath Das Goswami. Vairag juga bhakti rasam prayatnaya apayanam mam anubhikshamandam kripam budirya paradu kuduki sanatanastam prabhum ashrayami. Praying in the dust of their lotus feet that may even a particle of their moods which are present within these pages manifest within our hearts. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said, if I fail to speak the truth due to fear that others will become displeased, this is in the Upadeshavali, it's right here in this book, in this Upadeshavali, right near the end. So if you have the book, you can actually reference that quote directly. This was heard by all of his disciples. If I were to desist from lecturing about the absolute truth due to being fearful that some listeners may be displeased, I would be deviating from the path of Vedic truth and accepting the path of untruth. I would become one who is inimical to the Vedas, an atheist, and would no longer possess faith in Bhagavan, the very embodiment of truth. So this is a speciality of our Guru Varga, is that despite of the opinions of millions and millions of persons of this world, which are based on mundanity, they will speak the truth. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said, if all of the conditioned jivas in all of the material universes in one voice shouted at me the untruth, I would stand alone in the face of all of them and loudly and boldly proclaim the truth. He's my hero. You know that picture of him with his danda? Completely smashing all misconceptions. Completely fearless in the face of all of that. He would loudly and boldly proclaim the truth to all of the countless trillions and zillions of jivas who are covered and loudly proclaiming the untruth. He would shout the truth back at them. Most of us can handle maybe 10, 20, 50, maximum 100 people looking at you with disdain, just feeling disgusted toward you, rejecting you because of your faith, your beliefs. It's very difficult, especially if they know you. But thousands, millions, billions, could we do it? We have to be able to do it one day. And the only way to come to that point of being able to give up everything else for the pleasure of Krishna is to be under the guidance of someone like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj, Bhakti Pramod Maharaj. Such personalities who are uncompromising in the face of all of the other nonsense. They will continue to speak the truth boldly. So I pray that one day I can also become a lion like them, that we may all become lions like them, roaring very loudly, pouncing on the heads of the elephants of aparad, of all kinds of asat, everything which is unfavorable to Krishna Bhakti, Sahajya, Apasampradaya, and all of these other nonsense things, very loudly and boldly shouting the truth. Gurudev wanted us all to become like that. So yesterday we were speaking about how to become free from the heart disease of lust, which is the root cause of our bondage in this material world. Root. So it's a very bad root. It's a root, very, very big, gnarly root, which also is a weed. It's unfavorable for our bhakti. In this connection, I want to share one thing very interesting. Srila Gurudev said, if one is attached in this material world with so much love and affection for their wife and their children and family and so many things. They're experiencing so much ras in this material world. It's easier and better and easier to dovetail that into ras for Krishna. From material calm to transcendental calm. It's dovetailing. It was Kapila Dev who spoke in Srimad Bhagavatam. If you know that verse, he said that same kind of sentiment that one has, the attachment that one has to material things of this world, one dovetailed toward Krishna and the pure devotees, opens wide the door to liberation. So Gurudev was explaining, if one is already saturated with this ras, and he actually said like a sponge full of liquid, very easily that can be dovetailed toward Krishna. But for those whose hearts are dry, like the dry jnanis, meaning only in the head, but no heart, they have no rasa in their heart, it's very, very difficult to bring them to the conception of bhakti. That's why those persons whose hearts are softer, very easily, if you tell them about Krishna, their hearts can melt and they will want to love Krishna. Very easily. Srila Gurudev was speaking about that. So, we should try to develop a soft heart. Not that we should dive into the material world and try to saturate with mundanity, but associating with those pure devotees whose hearts are overflowing with loving affection. With a soft heart, then our hearts can also become soft for Krishna. And this is the real way of transferring the love, or the love of this material world, which is actually known as lust. It can be dovetailed toward Krishna. That same kind of attraction that one feels. And we've seen this in the life of Bilvamangal Thakur. What did Bilvamangal do? He was so attached to this one prostitute, so attached. There was a massive, massive storm. The Ganga was flooding, but he had to see her. He could not stay away. So what did he do? That night it was storming and lightning and thunder and heavy winds, and he began swimming across the Ganga, which was raging. But what could he do? It was so intense that he needed to take help from something. So he thought there was a log floating down the river. He grabbed hold of this log and began kicking his way across. Finally he crossed. Then he went, and he needed to see her so bad. He climbed up a rope onto the wall and then went to her door. He climbed over the wall using one rope and went to her door. And then when he was banging on the door, she opened the door. "What are you doing here?" He said, "I couldn't be without you. I needed to see you. I'm desperate." And what did she tell him? It was so simple. If you even gave a slight percentage of this kind of attention and intention toward Krishna or toward Bhagavan, you would attain perfection in no time. Just that. It awakened him. You're right. My God. And in fact, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami used that shlok, what she spoke, in the invocation verses of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because this was Vartma Pradarshika Guru, the first Guru who shows one the path. She was like, if you gave even a little bit of what you're giving to me toward Krishna, you would attain perfection in no time. So she was a bhakta, but due to her whatever situation, she had to be engaged in that kind of activity. But she was a devotee. So she encouraged him toward Krishna. So that same feeling, that same kind of attraction that we have to things of this world, when dovetailed toward Krishna, opens wide the doors to liberation. It can bring one all perfection. So we should not be hopeless if we have a heart which is full of so many lusty desires. If we come into the right association, they can take that and dovetail it into the service of Krishna. Very expertly. They're very expert in doing such a thing. Those persons who have so much energy. You've seen how Srila Prabhupada engaged his disciples. All of that energy he engaged day and night in the service of Krishna. You saw, they didn't have time for much nonsense. Before they could even put their head on the pillow, which wasn't even really a pillow at the time, maybe some bundled up cloth or whatever, And then Mangalarti, and then full seva constantly, engaging all of their energy in the service of Krishna, by which they amass a massive amounts of sukriti. So, in this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, it is saying the cure for the disease of lust is to somehow dovetail that toward transcendental, loving activities of Krishna and the gopis. This is to hear that katha from the pure devotee who will create that attraction towards serving Krishna. So yesterday Gurudev said, whatever condition you're in now, if you are a thief, a dacoit, a hooligan, or if you are pure, start performing Krishna bhajan and chanting the holy name, and automatically bhakti will take care of the rest. Bhakti will take care of the rest. Prema bhakti jaha hoite. By the mercy of Gurudev and Harinam Prabhu, Prema bhakti will begin manifesting in the heart in the form of Shraddha, and by this, automatically, as a result of that, the natural side effect of the awakening of, or manifestation of bhakti in the heart is that all ignorance is destroyed. Avidya vinasha jate. Gradually, as one is awakening more, then the ignorance is becoming destroyed. So Gurudev was speaking that the greatest mundane activity in this world, which is the greatest misconduct, which is known as adultery in this world, when it is applied to Krishna, it is not misconduct at all, but it is considered the highest of all high transcendental activities, the mood of the gopis' love and affection for Krishna. So when you apply the idea of mundane morality, when it's to Krishna directly, and it must be under guidance and when one is qualified, not pretense. Not pretense. When one's heart is actually saturated with bhakti rasa, and they come to that level, then they can understand properly. But if one's guru is telling them, don't serve Krishna, this is something you have to be careful for. Everything that we must do is ultimately for the pleasure of Krishna. So Gurudev is saying, mundane persons of this world will say that those who are surrendering themselves completely unto Krishna, with mind, body, words, heart, soul, everything, they will say that's a mundane activity. They are loving Krishna through hiding and deception, and because of this they have become so exalted. Gurudev is saying that materialists will criticize. They will criticize. I remember once there was one man in the mall, a Muslim man, he saw that I had tilak on, so he wanted to have a conversation about spirituality. But he already had a few things, a few ideas about Hinduism. Oh, your greatest scripture, he said. Your greatest scripture, Mahabharata. Oh, why is it glorifying a woman who has 5 husbands? This is not moral. So he was trying to criticize. Oh, and your God, he's got 16,108 wives, this kind of thing he was trying to say. So applying mundane, moral ideas onto the divine. This was his attempt to criticize. But Gurudev is saying that those who are, some people hear the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, they have mundane consciousness, mundane considerations, and they're superimposing these mundane ideas upon the transcendental. This is thoroughly incorrect. We should understand that Krishna is the source of everything, and everything is meant for his pleasure. And when we have that understanding and concept, then our vision is correctly placed. But if we try to put Krishna in the category of myself, especially prematurely, maybe if we become a cowherd boy, yes, then we can wrestle with him, we can throw him in the dust, we can play with him and tease him and like that. But in this stage, in the stage of sadhana, in our baby stage, we should not superimpose that I am on that level of Krishna. This can be very, very dangerous, and it can become aparad. So, Gurudev is saying, yes, the gopis have become so exalted that the most exemplary personalities, such as Narad, Uddhava, and the Kumaras, meditate on the gopis' feet within their hearts. What is that? In Radha Kripakataksha Stavaraja, there it is said, Aneka mantra nada manju. No, the next one. Anantakoti Vishnu Loka Namra Padmaja Chite Himadrija Pulomaja Virinchaja Varaprade Apara Siddhirit Dhitik Dasat Padanguli Nake Kada Karishyasi Hamam Kripakataksha Bhajanam Sanaka Sanatan Varnita Charite. All of these greatest personalities are glorifying the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika and the gopis within their hearts, and also by now. Those devotees who have developed sentiments like those of the gopis, Vikriditam Brajavadubhir, they will gain entrance into Krishna's playful pastimes. So it is so essential to hear these subjects from the lips of the pure devotee who has connection to, who is realizing and who is absorbed in practically experiencing these moods. That is real Brajavasi. By hearing from them, by serving them and following their instructions, by hearing this Brajakatha and gaining faith in that, gradually we will gain entrance into Krishna's playful pastimes. If one listens with faith to narrations of Krishna's pastimes with the gopis by Anushrinuyat, accepting a pure spiritual master, an ideal Rasika Vaisnava who knows the science of Krishna, and then constantly hears from him, then exclusive sentiment will come to that person who is listening. So by being under the guidance of that person who is a Brajarasik Vaishnava, by hearing from them, by serving from them, by being under their guidance, by following their instructions, then exclusive sentiment will come. Gurudev said constantly hearing from him. Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj gave that example of what is hearing and what is not hearing. He said, one mother, she came to her son. Her son was watching his favorite TV show. And she says, it's time for lunch. He said, yes, I'm coming. 10 minutes later, she comes in again and says, it's time for lunch. He said, yeah, I heard you the first time. 10 minutes later, she comes in and she turns off the TV and says, come to lunch. He's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I already told you twice. He said, I don't remember. He said, is this really hearing? What is the proof of hearing? The proof of hearing is that action will take place. Just saying, yes, I heard, this is not really hearing. So constantly hearing means what teachings they're giving, what instructions they're giving, we apply them, we follow them, we practice them. And that relates directly to, Jiva Pavana Prabhu. The log was actually a corpse, and the rope was actually a snake. I forgot that part. That's important to mention. So what I just said was relating directly to what Mamatami Muni, Miriam Mamatami Muni, she said, but so many were burnt out after so many years. What can we say about that? So I just spoke. What is the proof of actual hearing? The real application of that. So if we're accepting and rejecting whimsically, if we're not truly applying, if we're not actually chanting in the way that our Gurudev and our Guru Varga have explained, if we're not following the process, if we're not maintaining that association, or if we're mixing other association into it, and then we think, why is it not working? It's because we're not doing it right. I'll give an example. Gurudev used to tell this. Once upon a time, there was a very, very sick person. He was way overweight, he had diabetes, he was just about to die, and he went to the doctor and said, "Doctor, please help me, I'm about to die." The doctor said, "Ooh, you're not very well." He said, "You should take steamed vegetables, salads, fresh fruits, and all kinds of good things. Come and see me in a month." So the man went home. A month later, he came back. He was even more obese. His diabetes was going through the roof. His kidneys were hurting, and he was literally on the brink of death. And he was like, "Doctor, what's wrong?" The doctor looked at him and he said, did you follow what I told you to do? And he said, well, yeah. Doctor said, did you eat all those steamed vegetables? Yes. Did you have fresh salads and fresh fruits and fresh grains? Yes. Are you eating your greens? Yes. And the doctor was going, did you give up all of those deep fried foods and all the cakes and snacks and everything else that you were taking before that was making you sick? He's like, no, I just added your diet on top of my other diet. The doctor was like, oh my God. So this is us, our condition. Gurudev is trying to give us nectar. But we're trying to keep our pots full of all of our nonsense. We're maintaining all of our nonsense from before or adding new nonsense. We're not really making room for what Sri Guru wants to give us. And for those who are a little bit more technically minded, I wanted to get some software from one devotee for making music. So I had 3 hard drives. My hard drives were full of so much stuff. And I wasn't willing to relinquish any of it. And he's like, well, I'm here, I'm ready to give it. You want it? And I'm like, well, I want it, but I'm not going to give up anything that I have. Well, then I can't give it to you. And I said, well, then I can't accept it. So what is the real proof of wanting? That's the question. Because the real qualification for Krishna Bhakti Ras is the intense, greedy desire to have it. If you really want that thing, you have to put other things down and make space. Whatever you're holding in your hands, you have to let go of to accept what they're giving. Right? Imagine, I've got stuff in my hands, and who knows what it is, whatever it is, but I'm very attached to it, and I don't want to let go of it. And Gurudev is throwing something at me. He's throwing a solid gold ball. Catch! And all of this stuff that I think is so valuable, it's actually worth nothing. It's completely insignificant compared to the value of what Guru is throwing at me. Catch what I'm giving you. And we're like, oh, I don't want to put this down. So we can't receive what Guru is trying to give us. He said that I want to fix your broken pots and fill it with nectar, but no one is coming. So we have an obligation on our side. Right? After so many years, we're burnt out. Why are we burnt out? We're burnt out because we haven't really followed. And if we take our pulse, if we check our hearts, we'll know. Yeah. I was going to classes when any devotee would come to town. And I would do kirtan a little bit. And I chanted my rounds sometimes. And then I was going to the movies with my friends and drinking a little bit here on the side or whatever. I mean, okay, this is like, these days it's kind of normal. Even among devotee societies, you know. They believe in Krishna, but so many activities that so many people do. And I'm spending 16 hours or 20 hours a day doing everything which is not really bhakti. And maybe, I mean, some devotees actually wrote me and said, keep posting the quotes you're posting. It's the only thing I do in terms of bhakti in my day, is like a post. So please keep posting. That's the only thing they do. One little thing. It's okay. That spider is kicking one grain at a time, or the squirrel is throwing one small pebble. Krishna will appreciate it, that little thing, but it's not enough to give you bhakti bhava and prem. Srila Gurudev said Krishna wants everything, or as we say in American, he wants the whole enchilada. Have you heard that? Krishna wants everything. He doesn't want the remnants. After you have expended all of your energy in this material world, enjoying and tasting for yourself, then you give him 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and even then, because of our consciousness being splayed out in the material energy, when we come to give it to Krishna, still we're meditating on everything else of this material world. And then we burn out and we blame it on Krishna. But actually, we should blame it on our own adherence to the material world. Look at those persons who are spending all of their energy for Krishna. They're not burning out. They're becoming more and more excited, more and more nourished. There was no need for those 88,000 rishis in Naimisharanya who were hearing Bhagavatam to eat anything, to drink anything, to sleep, or even go to the toilet. everything was being nourished. Their entire mind, heart, body, everything was being nourished by Krishna Katha. So if we can develop some faith in that process, then we won't have to worry about all of the other stuff. But we tend to blame it, right? When something bad happens to us, anything good that happens, then we forget about God and we're like, ooh, let's enjoy. Something bad, hey God, why'd you do this to me? And we curse at God. Whereas actually it's the result of our excessive enjoyment. Then the bad comes as a natural effect of that. That's the karmic effect. But it's something that people tend to do. If something bad happens, we blame God for that. So we burn out on our own material experiences and then we pin it on bhakti. But actually, it's not coming from the process of bhakti. It's coming because we are not applying or properly applying the process of bhakti that we will feel burnt out. We're somehow short-circuiting the process. We're not following it properly. We're mixing it with jnana, karma, and adi, means mundane, fruitive. I want something from this. I'm going to do bhakti so that I experience, I want some experience, something as a result. Or I want freedom from suffering. Or I want other things as a result of my practice of bhakti. This is not pure bhakti. It's not a pure practice. And as a result, we find ourselves frustrated. Hey, why isn't it working? It's because I haven't really applied the process. That's why Rupa Goswami tells us very succinctly, very clearly in verse 8 of Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, what is the process, the essence of all advice. And then you go right back to the first verse, Vacho Vegam, then the next one, Ati Ahara Prayashascha, then the next one, Utsaha Nishchayadharya, Dadati Pratiganati, Krishneti Yasigiritam, Jishtai Svabhava Janitar, Sat Krishna Nama Charitari Satapya Vidya, then Tannama Rupa Charitari, and then going on beyond Vaikuntha to ultimately Vrindavan, Govardhan, Radha Kund, and service to the lotus feet of Sri Radha and Krishna. So Gurudev is saying, if one listens to, with faith, to the narration of Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, by properly hearing, accepting a pure spiritual master, an ideal Rasik Vaisnava who knows the science of Krishna, and then constantly hearing from him, then exclusive sentiment will come to him. This sentiment is our everything, and it will arise in us and give us great happiness. So I'm going to end with that point right there. It will arise in us and give us great happiness. That is the proof of bhakti. Bhakti pareshana bhavo viraktir. That naturally through the process of bhakti, we will experience joy. That is a natural byproduct of bhakti. We will feel nourishment and we will feel satisfaction. And that itself will be enough to drive us. But if we're feeling disappointed, if we're feeling not nourished, if we're feeling, sadness or disappointment, dissatisfaction, that means that we're not actually practicing the path of bhakti properly. That's why all of these definitions have been given to us by our Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, so that we can understand what is the flaw in my practice and what should I do so that I am practicing properly. And this is something for all of us to consider. Why is it that I'm not experiencing what they're all telling? Well, maybe I'm not following the science that they're giving. As Srila Prabhupada said, it is a science. So, Gurudev here is saying very explicitly that this sentiment is our everything, and it will arise in us and give us great happiness. The goal of our sadhana is to attain bhava bhakti, this sentiment, transcendental, loving mood, this sentiment. And from sadhana bhakti, whose goal is bhava bhakti, the goal of bhava bhakti is prema bhakti. So from this, it's a gradual awakening of mood, and as that mood is condensed more and more and more, it manifests into transcendental, divine exclusive love and devotion for the lotus feet of Sri Radha and Krishna. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So now,
it's late. It's late. You can continue tomorrow.
Yes, I was just reading Devaki's comment there, so I will address this a little bit more tomorrow.
What was it?
I feel it was more to do with relationships between the devotees who all still had their false egos and hierarchies. Yes, it can be, but I have to answer this really quickly. The process of bhakti, if we understood the principles or the foundations of it, then we would understand that all of those things were not bhakti. It's not the process of bhakti that's at fault, but it's our ignorance that is at fault. Our ignorance creates that situation. So, Srila Prabhupada, he said that we should become intelligent enough to distinguish. And this is something for us. We have responsibility to ourselves. And when we don't take responsibility to understand what we are investing in, we're investing our soul, the most valuable treasure, into that highest thing, which is loving service to Krishna. But if we think that that's, I guess, the first topic of our conversation, that all of these other things are bhakti, then we will be fooling ourselves. So we have a responsibility to ourselves to try to understand. Our gurus have spent countless hours of intensive energy to make translations and purports of all of these important verses of Shastra, so that we can have some comprehension and understanding of what bhakti is and what bhakti is not. And when we have an understanding of that, then we will take a very firm resolution that I will only accept into my life what is favorable for my progress in bhakti, and what is not favorable for my progress. Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So thank you for your beautiful questions. Please forgive me if I've said anything that has pinched you. I'm trying my best to represent what my Gurudev and our Guru Varga have given. And because I'm still a conditioned soul, I may be flawed in my representation, but I'm trying my best. So please give me your blessings so that I may be able to one day properly and purely represent them, their moods, their teachings, and their conceptions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
राधा विनोद की जय, राधा रानी की जय, गिरिराज महाराज की जय, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि गोविंद नाम धर्माधले गोविंद नाम Thank you very much for being with us today and staying late and giving us this opportunity for remembering the beautiful teachings of our Gurudev and our Guru Varga, and for engaging us in the service that our Srila Gurudev ordered us to do. We are indebted to all of you for this. We look forward to being with all of you tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Dandava Pranam, Radhe Radhe,
Jai Shri Radhe Shyam.